Hello, everybody, and welcome back to yet another cast. And today, I actually have something very, very special for you because I have a Total Annihilation mod that I've never cast on the channel, but I've known about it for a long time, and I've loved it. And the developer Vohvelielain, who is going to be our purple player in this game, he's been developing this basically by himself for several years, or many years now. So I actually want to bring this to you for the first time and introduce it and show you why I think it's so interesting and why I love it. And maybe you guys can share some of my enjoyment and excitement for this. Let's go ahead and we'll just go to the webpage for the mod and I'll just read the introduction. TA0 is a full-fledged modification of the classic strategy game Total Annihilation and aims to recreate the entire game to the maximum extent and quality that is currently possible. In addition to completely redesigned versions of the two factions from the original game, the ARM and Core, TA0 introduces a third faction, the GOK. All three factions are stylistically and strategically unique and crafted to the highest standards that can be achieved within the TA engine. The game is a work in progress, with preview versions rarely released to the public as development milestones are reached. So, as you can see, here's the three factions: ARM, Core, and the GOK. Now, the cool thing about this mod is that every unit has been taken out and revamped. So, like, there's no models from the original game. Everything has been redesigned. It's a total overhaul and revamp of the entire game. So it's not like a reskin. It's not like he's just started over from scratch, basically. But he's kept a lot of the themes. So, for example, if we look at the core units, every faction has some, like, unique identity and unique qualities. So, for example, the core units have duranium armor. All core units and structures possess rudimentary self-repair ability, and their mobile construction units self-repair at a doubled rate compared to the other factions. Furthermore, armor of some high-end core units is capable of adapting to the enemy fire, reducing damage taken from consecutive hits. They've got plasma shields, they've got laser weapons. ARM's special features are they have specialized units. ARM has the largest selection of units available among all factions, many of them built only for a specific task. But stripping away everything inessential keeps them highly affordable and mobile, and their main kind of weapon are energy machine guns. With Core, it was laser weapons. And finally, with the new faction that he added to the game, they get void shields. Almost all GOK units and structures are equipped with potent void shields, which scatter incoming projectiles in space and time, reducing the damage taken to a fraction. This essentially acts as an extra layer of durability over these relatively frail units. And if carefully managed through hit-and-run tactics, their fast recharge rate can result in phenomenal ability to tank damage over time. Anyway, and they use exotic weapons. GOK fields a varied arsenal of exotic weaponry with certain attributes taken to the extremes. So again, you can see all these. There's a lot of thought that's been put into these designs. And the GOK actually has melee units, which is something that we've never really seen in TA. So the commander has a massive sword, and his D-gun is actually using his sword in like a melee fashion, and it does 1 billion damage. So anyway, I wanted to show you guys a game of this mod because it's actually really exciting. And like I said, I've never casted a game of this mod, but it is so cool, and it's really well designed, and I just appreciate how much work has been put into this by Vohvelielain, who's he's been doing the best he can, I think, with all kinds of real life constraints to make this mod a really new and exciting and interesting take on the Total Annihilation genre, if you want to call it that. So this is the GOK commander, and the GOK is it's its own. It's like an alien race. It's very unique. They use a lot of void sort of technology and projectiles, and you'll see that as the game progresses. The Dynamo, that's their energy generator. This is their metal extractor. This is the T1 Terra platform. That's their factory. And we can open the commander's menu here and see that he can build a metal extractor, he can build energy, a geothermal, he could build a star, which is like a dragon's teeth, but it has a shield. The Admonisher is like a light laser tower. The Stargazer is like a defender. Black Dawn is like a guardian, etc., etc. And then here in red, I think it's Tashadan or Tashadan. He's the core commander. He'll be in red, and he's got his own equivalents. He's the Retributor is the artillery turret. The Incinerator is it's like the flamethrower defense in Escalation. I'm drawing a blank now on what the name of that is. But yeah, so you can see that a lot of work has been put into this mod, and just the qualities of the models and even the map. This map is so cool that I like. So this mod is really interesting because to me, it's sort of like what would happen if you take Total Annihilation and fuse it with StarCraft. StarCraft 1. You have the 3 different factions, all with their unique strengths and weaknesses. And the game is meant to be played in very close range situations on smaller maps. It doesn't really have the scale to some degree of something like Escalation, but it's not meant to be played like that. And also, the factions also have a very limited roster or pool of units, just like in StarCraft. So it's less about having the more powerful units or building the best units, and it's more about using the ones you have wisely. And so Red has built some core grunts, which they look a little bit like Marines. But either way, that's the grunt, as you might expect. It's just the T1 Scout K, or no, it's the T1 Assault K-Bot for core. And these are very effective in numbers and very effective in these, especially early game assaults. So, guys, the reason I'm having this so zoomed in is because I feel like this is sort of how StarCraft looks in 2025, this sort of zoomed in playstyle. And I think it's, yeah, I really think it adds a lot to have that sort of aesthetic and that level of ability to see things clearly, where I normally cast more zoomed out. But these grunts are about to walk into some mines. Very nice. And they will shoot them, but it does take out at least a couple grunts as they walk into those mines. And now, Vohvelielain bringing his commander, the Gok commander, who has a sword, and he's got him cloaked. But now he's in range, and he will swing his sword and take out grunts with utter impunity, blowing them all away. Very nice move by our purple player to use his commander in such a brutal and merciless fashion, swinging his power sword straight through the heart of those grunts and sending them into the nether realm, from whence they shall not return. But yeah, I do like the factional differences in this mod. It's much more of an asymmetric balance than something like OTA. And I really like the Disciples too. So the Disciple is the Gok main combat unit. They have a little gun that they carry in one hand, but they can also come into melee range, and as you can see, they will swing their swords at their targets. So they're fast and they're deadly, but they are rather weak. Their ranged attack is it's very light. They don't do much damage at range. They do the most in melee, and they have this shoulder mounted weapon. But yeah, the grunts will be much better at a range, and so the Disciples definitely want to try to get on top of the grunts, where they will do the most significant melee damage. The Laborer is the core con, and for the Gok, the Protector is their constructor unit. So the Gok also have these Reapers, which they carry a massive weapon, and they do a ton of damage But I think they can only fire while stationary, so that's their drawback, is that they have to be microed really well to get full effect. And red has really been, I feel like, the aggressor this game. He's just building waves and waves of grunt, this main assault unit for core. And so let's keep an eye on that. Let's keep an eye on whether red is able to overwhelm Vohvelielain with sheer masses of units. But guys, as I was saying about this map, which is called River of Flame, this is a map that was created specifically for this mod. Hold that thought, as we are having combats of grunts and disciples. But we do have a Stargazer here on the high ground. The grunts will begin to shoot it down. Its shield will expire. He's working on a second one, but yeah, look, Vohvelielain in a bit of trouble. That is so many grunts moving into the fray. Heading towards his base, the Reapers now setting up and beginning to fire back, but the Reapers die almost instantly. It didn't seem like they were really set up in time to be useful, and now Purple will have to retreat his commander away from this massive force of grunts that are patrolling around the battlefield and looking for targets, and probably the next target will be Vohveliain's base. He does have some defenses here, and he's got some disciples, but he clearly has the inferior force. He's going to have to use his army extremely effectively to hang on here, as red more than happy to make his way into the base. A third Reaper placed up here, and that is how Reapers are supposed to be used. They stay at a range and they do a massive amount of damage. The single Admonisher, very well placed. Most of the grunts have already been wiped out. And between these this Reaper and the Admonishers and the Disciples, it seems like Vohvelielain will stay in the game. And now he has a nice field full of corpses that he can reclaim for metal. So very nicely done by Purple to hold on and to repel that attack that could have been potentially game ending. But it looks like red is still just on T1. From what I can tell, that's the only factor he has right now, though he is floating metal, and now he's going into air. So one cool thing about this mod is that air has gunships on T1. There's a laser bomber. There's, for core at least, the construction aircraft has a transport hook. So a lot of really neat ideas or features in the air as well. And hopefully that will come into play in this particular game. But as I was saying about this map, I loved watching the lava fall from the sky. You occasionally have these sort of like meteors falling down. You know, like right here, these meteors. So a lot of work, not only going into the units and the designs and the factions, but also the maps. As I've never really casted a Total Annihilation map that looks anything like this. This is a really neat, well-designed map. And it's also small because, again, this mod is not meant to be played on a massive scale. It's meant to be played in small strategic and tactical battles. Yeah, that where may the best player win. May the player that has the better understanding of the game, better micro, better decision making. But now Vohvelielain with a Domina, and I'm trying to remember now what the Domina does. So the Domina, T1 support hovercraft. From what I remember, those fire a sort of like an AOE shell or energy plasma burst. But Tashadan with some Aegis. This core T1 anti-tank. Oh no, the Domina I guess has more of like a beam weapon. Still very effective, and the Scourge is the Gawk anti-tank weapon. So interesting battle happening here. More grunts moving through, backed up by Aegises. Disciples, they will need to get into melee range. There is that Reaper in the back. But tons of action happening here. As both sides will clash. The grunts getting into nearly melee. Targeting down the Reaper. Vohvelielain will, I think he's going to lose most of this stuff. He loses the battle. He does have this Admonisher up here. But his T1 factory is in trouble. As Red begins to target it down. The shield has broken. Oh no, dude. He gets it just in time. Vohvelielain with his commander not able to push that away. Now he will have to reclaim his lab and potentially rebuild it. So that's pretty annoying for him. But Red is now on air and building some sentries. I think that's the anti-air tower for core. So still the game is pretty even. Purple's done a great job of holding on. But you can see the map has been taken pretty symmetrically by both players. Let me go ahead and get rid of this. However, one big difference is that Red is on air. Vohvelielain just building a second factory. So, no, maybe a third factory. Yeah, he's building his third factory. So he's going to have 3 factories here. As Red moves in for yet another attack. This time using arc lights. So the, let's see. The Aegis is the T1 assault tank. The arc light is the T1 artillery tank. So these should have a greater range. It'd be used more for sieging, and certainly they do. Look at the range of those bad boys. This will prompt Vohvelielain to try and chase him down. He doesn't want to just get shelled into oblivion, and that looks like exactly what's happening. Tashadan using these arc lights. Or Tashadan. Using those arc lights to great effect, but now Red has built a Retributor, which is just essentially the Punisher for core. A second Punisher, or a Plasma Battery being thrown up. A Scout flying over Purple's base. And you will begin to see what his opponent's doing. But, oh, I like this. Red with transports. Bringing some tanks. He's going to try and do a drop into Vohveliain's base. But most of those transports are shot down. He doesn't really get away with it. There's plenty of Stargazers. And unfortunately, that strategy, while clever, it doesn't really pay off. There's a Black Dawn, which is the Gawk Guardian, hitting this Aegis from pretty far away. So ultimately, I liked Red's idea there. I think that was a really clever idea to try and transport his army into Vohveliain's base, but ultimately Purple is ready, and that plan will go by the wayside. But yeah, it does seem like Red is taking more of the map now. He's spreading out like an octopus. And Vohvelielain has to find a way to break out of this light contain he has. But this is how he's going to break out. He's got an army of Scourge and Disciples moving through the west. And there are some essentially light laser towers here, but it isn't going to be enough to stop this by any means. However, at the same time, this will prompt Red to push forward with the assault tanks and the artillery tanks. And this is going to give Vohvelielain certainly problems. He does have these admonishers, the light laser towers. And wow, they're doing really well. They're dealing with this push a lot better than I thought they might. But in the meantime, that will force him to retreat. I think Vohvelielain, he's concerned that if he doesn't come back, he won't be able to protect his base. He does have his commander, though. He didn't really need to retreat. I think with his commander, he has more than enough with all these light laser towers. The admonishers. Oh, man. Nice surround, getting all of the disciples in melee range and cleaning that attack up nicely. But I really would have liked to see Vohvelielain continue pushing down the west side of the map, because it seemed like he had enough with his commander and these defenses to clean up everything there. And I think red is pretty vulnerable here. There's not that much in the way of defenses. Oh, the incinerator is like the immolator. That's what I was looking for. So this is like the immolator for core. But it seems like red with a small squadron of hornets, the anti-air fighter for core. And the game is still pretty even despite the fact that red has taken over more of the map. But man, I really wish purple had just kept pushing. I think he could have gotten in there. I think he really could have made his way into the base and dealt some serious damage to his opponent. But instead, he does retreat, bringing his army back into his base. I think a single hornet flying over. That will be shot down. And now Vohvelielain, he is going to attack in the southeast, but this is much better defended. As you can see, there's tons of light laser towers. We've got arc lights. So yeah, this is definitely not the weakest part of red's base, and I think he will be more prepared for this. But purple's still getting a lot done. He's killed most of the defenses. Try to get in range of the arc lights, but so far he's been relatively unsuccessful. However, he still has a large force in the east. But the issue is these retributors are causing a lot of harm. I think they've killed yet another T1 factory for our boy in purple. And now red building some core gunships, adding those to the fray as well. So I really like that red is on air, but it looks like Vohvelielain also on air. Let's build a Dirge Singer, which is, I think, the bomber for this faction. So he will have some bombers in this next push. And this next push has already begun. He's got loads and loads of disciples. He's got the bombers coming into the fray, dropping those massive plasma bombs. Man, look at all of the disciples. But red has some gunships. I don't think there's enough air defense here. Maybe there is, but the battle is continuing to happen here in the front. And could purple have enough to break through? He's doing a decent job. He's made it at least somewhat into Tashadan's base. And he's killing a lot of resources. But ultimately, he wasn't able to get to the production, and that may be important by the end of this. He is moving down the southeast. Red now doing his own attack here at the northwest of his base. But yeah, lots of multiple battles happening here, and I think most of purple's army will be cleaned up. But now, red has walked into Vohvelielain's commander, and he will be cleaned up, so a lot of action happening on both sides. Both players with some pretty effective attacks. But ultimately, it looks like red is still on top, just economically, and in terms of the map position, and these retributors definitely giving purple some serious issues. The long-range plasma cannons, nothing if not a nuisance to deal with for our purple player. But let's not count him out just yet. The game is still going and could go either way. I just want to keep an eye on this. Okay, so red has built the T2 ground laboratory. And this is a sight to behold. He now has access to behemoths, which are basically Goliaths, and the Mediator, which is basically a siege tank from StarCraft. I'm sorry, but that's what it is. So he's built basically a siege tank here, the Mediator. Let's keep an eye on that because it has a massive range. Vohvelielain with another attack. He's got bombers coming in, dropping their payloads. So much happening on the screen. But Red has brought in his fighters, and he will shoot down those dirge singers, mercilessly tearing them from the skies. And now, with his own counterattack, with a mediator in the fray, tons of arc lights and grunts, even some Aegis. Vohvelielain looking, he's looking vulnerable. He doesn't have much left. He has 2 aerial platforms pumping out bombers, but this is a scary force that's moving in now. So many arc lights and this single mediator. Look at the range of this bad boy. Holy hell, that is not balanced. Here we go. The mediator is setting up, turning his attention northward. Oh man, that is disgusting. That is absolutely not balanced. That is a sight to behold. Truly, the avatar of death and destruction are these mediators. And Vohvelielain, he's going to have to, he's definitely going to have to create a response. As Red brings his gunships to the top left and then begins to pick apart his base up here. And Vohvelielain doesn't really have any fighters. He's only been building bombers for the most part this game. So his gunships will be difficult to deal with. And now with this mediator knocking on his doorstep, he's got to break through here. This is just a terrible situation. Scourge moving in, but finally Vohvelielain bringing some gunships of his own, targeting down the mediator. He knows this is a problem, but it's just not enough. Red has his own fighters in the fray. The mediator still lives and will now begin shelling this eastern base with near impunity. Purple is in so much trouble. He's going to try an attack here in the northwest, but all of the action happening near the east part of the map as this mediator and all the arc lights continuing to rain hell down on Vohveliain's base. He's got to run. He needs to gather his army and get a sufficiently large force to stop this. But right now, it feels hopeless. The army has broken through. The Admonishers doing their best here. But I don't know if it's enough. More gunships entering into the fray. But it seems like there might be enough anti-air. These the grunts seem to be able to shoot upwards. Spectre's still pretty healthy, but the mediator is still alive. And now with Aegis entering into the fray, I don't know. I really don't know if this is going to work. It feels like Red has done it. He's made it into the base. He's doing all kinds of economic and production damage on his opponent. Purple crumbling under the weight here. Trying to target the mediator down with the disciples, but does it really matter now as his base, it is crumbling. He is crumbling. Fighting here on the west side as the gunships have found his commander. They are trying to focus down his commander, but he will bring his commander into the fray for one last hurrah. Swinging his sword, taking out the behemoth. He's going to try and do as much as he can, but all these defenses targeting him. And with that, Purple has gone to a better place. So guys, that's a really cool mod. I'm sure after seeing a game now, you can understand why I wanted to share it with you. So, man, it's 4 videos in one day. Let me know if you want to see more of this mod. I could definitely show you some more. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next cast.